The beginning of the section talks about revelation of energy. If you think about a question that you had in your mind for a while, and with all the effort, search, books you've read, you questioned, you tried to use different people in your life that you trust, but the clarity did not come. Do you know what I'm talking about? And there is a moment that you would feel as suddenly, I got it. As we know, in a spiritual level, there is no such a thing as suddenly. This is part of the foundation as far as understanding the wisdom Kabbalah is giving us, and many other spiritual modalities giving us. Even though we live in a world, in a type of reality that we might experience sudden events, according to the wisdom, nothing happened just suddenly. There are many different things happening in the process that designed reality to allow this revelation to take place. How many times in your life you went through something that made you feel it's the time to change? And as you realize this is the time to change, you are already in the process of change. Things got better, and you found yourself going back into those same old choices, decisions, ways of living life. How many of you experienced that in your life? The first step that's related to our process, in our make it called Dormita. Dormita means a phase where I'm asleep, not physically. My conscience is asleep. I'm not truly in touch with what I truly desire from life. And I'm just living in a robotic way, completely asleep. There are moments throughout the process, things happen that makes me become more awakened. 1 second, is this what I want? I want more than that. I wish for my life to have more meaning. There is an awakening. And this awakening lasts for whatever amount of time it lasts. And the tendency of all of us is to go back into the sleeping mode. So the first phase is recognizing where my desires are asleep or dormant. The second step will be experiencing an awakening. Reveal for yourself, what is it that you truly desire? Because as long as I live my life in the sleeping mode, this, what the Kabbalists refer to living in a bondage. Living in life that will not lead me to fulfill what I meant to fulfill in this world. It's a prison that we creating for our own self. But the first phase with the energy of this week is to reveal for myself where I might be asleep with my life. Where do I compromise on things that they are part of deep down true desires, values that I have? Where do I compromise? Where did I forget what is truly important for me and I just design my life to the way it's supposed to be? When I look at the world, the way that most of people living in the world, many people forgot what do they really want. Where do I live in this way? Where did I forget what is it that I truly want? The first phase, recognizing where I'm still asleep, and the awakening as the second phase. How many of you are clear about what I'm talking about? So I want to give you a few minutes to try to recognize at least one potential desire, area of your life that you might recognize that, you know what, I have to awaken my true deep down desires. I'm not in touch with this desire. living my life in a certain way that it might be okay, might be positive, might be not harming other people, but it's not truly the energy that I would like my life to be governed by. Where is it in your life? I will give you just a few minutes to recognize it, and only if you're comfortable, I would like you to share it with a friend sitting next to you. One area in your life. Okay? Please. So, before we move to the next understanding, into a deeper level of understanding this process, a question that we should have in our mind, specifically in this week, it would be a good question to ask any day of our lives, but specifically in this coming week, is where do I put aside true deep down desires, long-term goals internally, in exchange for some short-term energy that I might get today. This a first step to lead me into a place of revelation, to be able to awaken myself, my desires, my soul in a new level. The Zohar, in verse number 65, and I would like to read this verse in Aramaic, again, to help us to create a spiritual awakening. The Zohar writes, וידבר משה כן אל בני ישראל, ולא שמעו אל משה מקוצר רוח. Moses eventually did speak with the people, with the Israelites. It says that they indeed did not listen to him. Why? מקוצר רוח. קוצר רוח, in the literal meaning, means shorten of breath. מהי מקוצר רוח? However, the Zohar is asking, what does it mean? What does it mean, shorten of breath? אמר רבי יהודה, דלה אהבו נפישי ולה אהבו לקטעי רוחה. אמר רבי שמעון מקוצר רוח, דעד לה נפק יובלה למאהב לון, נפישו ורוח בתראה, עד לה שלטה למעבד נימוסיו כדן הווה אקו דרוחה, מה נהיו רוח בתראה דקאמרן. The Zohar is saying, the words themselves, קוצר רוח, which literally means short of breath, does not really talk about the physical short of breath. It talks about a short of a spirit, of a spiritual energy. ומעבודה קשה. And because of their hard work, they couldn't really listen. There is a revelation, the universe is trying to reveal for me something, but I might not be in a condition of listening right now. I'm very busy with my life. We're all busy with our lives. We're all busy with our lives, but sometimes we're not busy in the right way. I believe that if we would just think about it in a second, some of us might believe that we're truly busy 24/7 with the right things. But some of us will be awakened in some level, and some of us might find that it's true that I'm working very hard, but do I find the time to pause from whatever hard work that I do to listen to something internally inside of me that I will not be able to hear if I will not pause the noise of this life? When we become too busy with life, running from one thing to another thing, and everything it is about fulfilling tasks, we might lose the whole connection with the true meaning of life. Because life is not supposed to be just about fulfilling my tasks. Shorten of spirit, it is when I'm not capable even to listen to my own soul, to my own true core desires. What is it that I truly want? It might be that, again, I'm working very hard to fulfill all my obligations in this life, and there are many. They didn't have the time to listen to Moses. Moses, the Zohar explains, does not just refers to this physical individual named Moses. The Zohar explains that Moses represents certain type of energy. It is not about Moses 3,400 years ago. Moses represents certain type of energy. But in Kabbalah it's called Sod Adat Apnimit, which literally means the secret of the inner wisdom. This is what it means. When the Kabbalists talk about Moses, again, they don't talk about the Moses of 3,400 years ago, because how can I make a connection with this Moses? They talk about Sod Adat Apnimit, which means the secret of the inner wisdom. Making the connection with this inner wisdom that we already have within. The Kabbalists explain that the ultimate spiritual level one can achieve in that place, it says Nishmat Adam Telamdeu, that the ultimate guide that you can receive in your life, it is your inner self. Within yourself, there is all the wisdom, there is all the guide, there is all the information, there is all the knowledge, there are all the answers that you will ever need. But in order to be able to access this wisdom, to this energy within yourself, you will need to recognize that it does exist inside of you. If I don't recognize that all of that energy that I need, all the answers for any confusion that I might face in life, if I would not recognize the answer exists within me, by default, I'll look at the outside. And most of my life will become something that is dependent on the outside, of what do I get or what I don't get from the outside. Sometimes an individual needs to go through 70 years of their life to realize that everything was there from the beginning. So in order to travel 70 years and then to become awakened and then to realize, oh my God, it was all inside of me. Getting out of the spiritual exile, spiritual bondage, this type of living in way of being dependent, into realizing that everything that I need is within me. There is a short video of my teacher, Rav Berg, from many years ago. It's 3 minutes that I would like all of us to watch, please.
They didn't know there was a God. Didn't know. Came and Shaba Eleihem Moshe. When Moshe came to them, Lamad otam mitzvah rishona hazu shekatuv vidatem ki ani Hashem lokechem hamotzi etchem, which says in this week's parsha. You should know that there's a God that's going to take you out. Not that you'll overcome, you'll do battle, but that God is running the show. God is going to take you out. Now, this is where you understand religion came from. God tells you to do this, God punishes, God does this, and God does that. But with all this, says the Zohar, you have to know it. Well, if God tells me I accept it, does that mean I know it? I heard it. Does that mean I know it? What does knowing mean? What does knowing mean? You give me a piece of information. Now I know it. Therefore what? I believe it? Because someone told me? Because God himself came and told me? So you have to know. You have to know. V'lula mitzvah hazu, and without this mitzvah of knowing, lo hayu yisrael nemanim laHashem, gam Achar kol elu hanisim v'agvurot she'asa lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Mitzrayim. Miracles, plagues, splitting of the sea, and so on. He says, if they didn't have this first mitzvah of knowing, they would never believe that there was a God, even though in front of their eyes the sea split. Even though in front of their eyes all the firstborn in all the houses of Egypt, all the firstborn died. Now, that's not normal. They would not believe that there was some force above them, meaning something that they could not duplicate. But who could duplicate that? Why wouldn't they believe it? Says the Zohar, they would not believe it happened. Coincidental. But if Moses didn't teach them how to know, even these miracles they would not have believed. Incredible Zohar.
So the Rav speaks about the idea that came from the process of the Israelites, bless you, that eventually they received different precepts, the commandments and the different precepts. The first one is knowing God. Knowing God, it's an idea that can be interpreted in many, many, many different ways. Bless you. We talk about the way the Kabbalists interpreting, the Zohar interprets, the idea of this precept that Moses gives to the people about knowing the Creator, knowing God. The extent that the Kabbalists explain that without knowing the force, even amazing things would happen. They would not be able to look at those things as blessings, as miracles of life. They would think it is just a coincidence of things that happen. When the Kabbalists speak about this precept, this idea of knowing God, knowing the Creator, it based that our essence, our soul, is the creation of this force. And within our essence, there are all the powers of this force. Meaning that if one develop their own relationship with God, they will find eventually that God it is a force, and the powers of the Creator, they are powers that exist within us. The Kabbalah is explaining that at the moment of creation, the force of creation, the Creator, this force was imbued, it was become part of creation. Where do you find God? What does it mean, knowing God? If God is an external force that I need now to learn how to dial into this power, which is outside of myself, God is a force that exists with every part of creation. But for me to be able to see the divine energy behind things around me, I will have first of all to be able to develop my ability to see this divine force within myself. How can we recognize the force of the Creator within this world? There is so much chaos. There is so much negativity. We can all ask, if God is a force which is unlimited, can't God just change all of this negativity and just bring all the ultimate positivity to the world? Can't God just shift anything that seemed to be negative, and it is negative? Cannot God remove all the poverty, all the sickness, all that? What is negative in this? Cannot God is capable of doing that? The revelation of that force is dependent on each one of us, which means that in our own process, we need to find this divine power within ourselves. Any negativity we might feel or disconnect we might feel will be just an effect of me not being connected with my soul power. In my mind, it might be that I experience negativity because of external reasons. Physically, I might be right. But if I do want to approach life from a spiritual level, I would need to realize things of the outside can shift the moment that I will find the work I need to do in order to access, to reveal, to awaken this divine energy within myself. If in my life I'm not searching for revealing that power of my soul, this divine energy of the Creator within myself, I will end up to make many different types of efforts to make things better in my process. But eventually, like the Israelites for 2010 years and like Pharaoh, I will find myself living in a loop, in the same patterns. I'm realizing something, making an effort, then getting back into my old way of thinking, the old way of my belief system. One moment I found the reason and the spiritual meaning behind what I'm going through. The second meaning I forgot about. There is a divine power behind life, and it's really about this individual and this situation. It is up to each one of us. This is now the process of realizing, what does it mean knowing God? It doesn't mean everything is perfect in my outside. It means that the change depends on me revealing in a new way my connection with my soul powers. What is this God power? Again, this God power that we talk about exists within everything. But in order for me to link my energy and my life to see how the divine force works in everything around me, and things don't happen just by accident, by coincidence, I will need to realize, first of all, the same thing about my life, about my own self. Is that clear to everyone? If I would ask you to explain this idea to the friend sitting next to you, how would you feel about it? Excited? Okay, so I'll give you 1 minute to share this idea with the friend sitting next to you, okay? Whatever patterns that we find in our process, they are just a result of some of the internal framework we're living by. Something internal, something within myself. It might be logically the pattern I'm experiencing is related to someone else. If I do want to break through the pattern, I will need to realize that the breakthrough can happen and will happen when I will be able to put aside anyone technically, physically involved, and I will be able to realize the internal process that I'm going through, this framework that I'm living by. So all of these frameworks will be always related to different type of belief system that we have that don't support our growth in life, but keeps us living limited life. If there is, and there is, some type of a limited belief system within me, as long I live my life by this framework of a limited belief system, I will hit in life the same points that would seem to be the patterns. Why a pattern occur again and again and again? Because something internally does not shift. So as much as my desire to change this pattern right away, I need to realize that this pattern is a result of certain internal framework I'm living by. And this framework is certain belief system that I have that does not support my growth and keeps me living in the same loop. Because if my belief system remains the same, if it is limited belief system, I will experience the same patterns in my life. The patterns will be always a result of certain belief system that I'm here to shift at the soul level. In order to get rid of the old negative patterns in my life, to break out of this cycle, this loop in my life, I need to look inward. Because God is a force that I can find within myself. We will need to go through a process of realizing what is the trigger behind all of these patterns that we experience. What is the trigger? But the trigger is not the cause. It's just the trigger. So we will need to go through a process of realizing, recognize what is the trigger behind my patterns without getting confused. This is just the trigger. It's not the cause. When you start to recognize the triggers for those patterns that you can recognize in your own life, the second step will be to uncover the underlying causes, which will be always related to certain shifts that I need to go through as far as my belief system. In the teachings of Rav Breinwein, who was the Kabbalist, who was the teacher of Rav Berg, in one of his teachings, he talks about an idea that I believe that most of us can relate to. And I want to relate it to what we spoke about. Because we spoke about 3 phases. One is recognizing where I'm asleep, where I'm not in touch with my core desires. Only then, when I recognize where I'm asleep, I can go to the second phase, which means the awakening. I'm awakening my true desires. I'm a connection with these real desires, values that I have. What do I really want from life? The third phase, as we said, is what so-called redemption. Redemption, it is that shift that I wish to see in my life. Is to be connected with my true essence. This is where you find redemption. If I live my life without being connected with my true essence, it can be that I'm not conscious. I don't really know what is that true essence. Maybe I didn't ask myself for a while in life, what is it that I truly want deep down? But after, again, we recognize where we are asleep, we moving to the next phase, we becoming more awakened. The third phase, which is, again, refers to the redemption, which is that shift that is taking place. Rav Breinwein, in his teachings, says that in order to break through to that place, that the shift will happen, it will not take just to recognize where my desires are asleep and just to become more awakened with my desires. Because there is an aspect in this process called life that might cause each one of us to lose hope, to lose the energy, to lose our vision that this shift can take place. And this called time. When I desire the shift, and I'm motivated, and I have the drive. Many people over time losing the drive because I felt that it's supposed to happen like in a few days or in this period of time, and if it did not happen, many people over time losing energy. What's supposed to happen is the opposite. Over time, we suppose we should increase the level of the energy. Meaning if it didn't happen yet, so I will look even in a deeper level into myself and what is the next level of my work that needs to be done to create that condition for the shift to take place. The shift will be always an effect. The shift will be always an effect. And if it didn't happen, and I'm looking for certain thing, and for me this is the shift, and I'm working hard towards it, and I'm driven and certain about that is going to happen, there will be a test in that frame called time. How long can you hold on to your certainty? How long? The question is what are you certain about? Think about a wall that's separating me from another place. But this wall is divided to many, many different walls. So I'm working very hard and I'm breaking through one wall, and I believed after making this effort and breaking through this wall, I'm going to find what I looked for. The shift is going to happen. And after breaking the wall, I'm realizing, oh my God, there is another wall in front of me. And you know what? Many people already losing their energy in that point, saying, what's the point? I made so much effort, there is another one. Some people will continue to push through, and they will break the second layer. And many times, after the second layer, you'll realize there is another layer. So more people will lose their drive after breaking the second layer and realizing that the shift does not happen. How many people will continue to do the work to break through? And obviously we don't talk about external walls. We talk about our internal walls. But developing the certainty that as long you work inward, as long your desire is to break through everything that separates between where I am right now and this infinite power and energy and the shift that I want to see, when the work goes inward, and when the certainty it is that my work, it is always inward. And all of this reality designed just to help me to focus on the right thing and not to be distracted, not to get confused. In order to break a pattern, I need to break my own patterns. What are my old patterns that not supporting me in my growth? What are the things that I do that do not support me? Starting, as we said, in belief systems, continue with different actions that I do that do not support me in this life to move to the next chapter, to the next phase, to a place that I will find more connection with the true meaning of my life. Where do I keep myself behind the wall? This week, as the energy of what so-called the 7 plagues taking place, this is the energy that can support each one of us to wake up from our own spiritual sleeping mode, to awaken our connection with true deep down desires of our soul. The shift, which is the third phase, as Rav Branwyn explains, depends on 2 things. Is that doesn't matter how many walls I need to break through. I know that this is my work, and I'm going to do anything I can to break through my walls. And I am certain, I have no idea how many walls, but I'm certain that the moment I will break through all the walls, the shift will happen. Developing the certainty, breaking through my own walls, will reveal that energy that being concealed underneath. The second thing, Rav Branwyn is saying, is developing in this process the certainty that the next wall that I break, I'm going to reveal the totality of this shift. But if it will not happen, for me it doesn't matter. Because the process is developing the certainty that the next wall you're going to break, this when the shift is going to take place. How much certainty do I develop within myself? Again, many by nature losing their certainty because they were certain that the next wall they're going to break, the revelation will happen, the shift will happen. Something will change, and it didn't. How many people can keep the certainty? That doesn't matter. I could break 8 walls so far and it didn't happen. But to keep the certainty and to develop the certainty that the next wall I'm going to break, this one, the shift is going to take place. These are the 2 levels that Rav Branwyn is speaking about again, that we can focus on in this coming week. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.